And since a lot of this is all new to me, and I'm sure you understand a lot of the stuff much better than I do, I'll let you kind of just tell the story. But first, why don't we just start out talking a little bit about you, where you're from? I understand you must be from the UK, but now you're in Sweden, is that correct? Uh, so kind of like maybe give a little quick introduction as to your story up to now. Just kind of to set the stage a little bit about who you are.
Yeah. So I'm Professor Lynn Snedden. I'm based at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden. I originally come from Scotland and I lived in the UK for many years, but moved to Sweden in 2020 to start my lab there. And Swedes love animal welfare, so it's been quite successful in terms of getting funding to work on a variety of aquatic animals and explore their welfare.
Okay, you just mentioned that the Swedes, of course, love aquatic life and things like that. Are there any other reasons that maybe attracted you to Sweden?
Sweden is a very wonderful country to live in, and it has a history of doing work with aquatic animals that's really famous. And the Gothenburg area is particularly attractive and interesting. And I have some family here, so and I knew quite a lot of people who worked here, so it seemed like the right place to move to.
How did fish get on your radar? And how did you start these studies? And was there maybe like a eureka moment? Or was this kind of like a slow, gradual process where you started moving towards your understanding of how fish feel pain?
Yeah, so when I was very young, I lived in the centre of Scotland. I never really saw the sea very much. So much of the exposure was the documentaries by Jacques Cousteau and the Taylors. And I just thought it looked like the most fascinating, alien and exciting world. And I have always had a fondness for aquatic animals. I used to keep goldfish as a child. And so that was something that I always wanted to work on. And I went to university and did a degree in marine biology. Then I did a PhD on crab behavior. And then after that, I did a postdoc on weakly electric fish, recording their electric signals. And finally ended up at the Roslin Institute in Scotland, where I worked with Mike Gentle on this question of whether fish experience pain. And this was back in 1999 when no one knew anything about it. But there was absolutely no information, and lots of vegetarians would eat fish because they felt, they don't have feelings. And so this was really a complete kind of blue skies approach where we were really trying to find out, do these fish experience pain? And so the Roslin Institute had never had fish before, so I had to build some fish tanks and then do some neuroanatomy where I looked at the types of neurons or nerves that are in the fish's system. And they did indeed have the types of nerves that act as pain detectors. They're called nociceptors. And then, of course, I had to record from them because just because they're there, they might not be similar to the types of nerves that we have. But actually, when I used electrophysiology to record the electrical activity, I found they were strikingly similar to the mammalian ones. And that was really the very first reporting of fish having these pain receptors. And since then, I've been working on this question, showing that the fish's behavior is adversely affected and that we can prevent that by giving them pain relieving drugs. So overall, I've continued this work to try and fully understand what fish are capable of experiencing and how important is it to them, and can we find ways of making sure they don't experience pain or that we minimize it or alleviate it by providing pain relief.
Interesting. And, to be honest, this whole question of fish feeling pain, at first to me seemed a little odd. You know, I, like you, I didn't grow up near the ocean. I'm from the States, and I grew up in the middle of the country, but there's still lakes and streams and people go fishing. And when you see someone catch a fish, and oftentimes there's a hook in their mouth, and the fish never looked like they're having fun to me. They look like they must be in pain. So, I mean, I don't quite understand, how is there this disconnect from the fact that it seemed obvious that they were feeling pain, that maybe people thought they weren't feeling pain, or was there just a a thought that maybe they experienced pain in a different way and it really wasn't a big deal. I don't quite understand that.
I think when you speak to most people, members of the public, they say it's obvious. Of course, fish experience pain. If they didn't experience pain, they just go around hurting themselves all the time, would get injured, would get diseases, die. And so it makes sense that animals experience pain because it's a crucial survival mechanism. You can't survive without it. And humans who don't experience pain die very young because they get severe injuries and don't know. So it is quite strange, and I get asked this a lot. The problem is that if you want governments or industries to change their ways and improve animal welfare, you have to have sound scientific evidence to show them that you've proved beyond a doubt that these animals experience pain and they suffer. And the industries that use fish, aquaculture, fisheries, people who go out catching fish for a hobby or a sport, these are very powerful lobbying groups, and they do not particularly want to spend money on welfare. And so it really has come down to the fact that in order to affect change with governments, with legislators, with policy, with guidelines, you have to show that the animal experiences pain and as a result would suffer. And that is the only powerful evidence that will get people's attention and will affect change.
And I wonder if that's not the real focus of the discussion is, as you just said, suffer. So maybe there was a realization that the fish felt pain, but is it suffering or not? And maybe the same thing is with a lot of livestock. It's like if they're not suffering, you're really not hurting them, perhaps. So is it kind of the same mindset?
I think the sort of mindset is more about there are a small number of skeptics that believe that animals don't experience pain in any form, that it's just a reflex response, and that they are not capable of suffering or dis experiencing discomfort. And their arguments are that you must have a human-like brain to do that, that you must have specific areas of the brain it's called the insula and the anterior cingulate cortex to experience pain, but that's been proven to be absolutely untrue because there are people who have damage to those areas who still feel pain and who actually are what are called hyperpathic. They feel pain more than they did before the injury. And so you don't need to have a human-like brain to experience pain because if you accept that argument, then no animals experience pain, dogs, cats, birds. But I think, pain is just so important to survival. If it's not a bad experience, you don't learn. And it has to really motivate the animal to behave in a completely different way after that experience. So it has to be a very strong negative affective state to really drive changes in the animal's behavior. And we've shown that when fish are experiencing pain, they don't eat, they don't show reactions to predators, so they're consumed by the pain. They don't show fear. They don't behave adaptively when they're in pain. So pain is a very important state for fish to be in, and they're truly affected by pain and don't go back to normal for hours. And some studies have shown for up to 3 days. And so I think to say that they don't suffer is not correct. Of course, Tim, I've never been a fish, and I don't think you probably have. So we don't
Not
truly
recently.
yeah, we don't truly know what's going on in the fish's mind. All I can tell you is that this experience really does detrimentally affect their behavioral responses. They are absolutely affected by it, and it's important to them.
And with your research, what do you think are the ramifications? You just mentioned the fact that when fish feel pain, perhaps it'll cause them not to eat for a few days. But what are the other ramifications? And also, how do you want people, the general public, to respond to this and what these ramifications might mean for me and for other people in society?
Yeah, so with the not eating, I mean, if you're an aquaculture person and you want to make money from fi growing fish and they're not eating, that has very negative effects on your financial income. And there are some treatments for salmon lice, for example, Atlantic salmon don't feed for weeks after being treated for salmon lice. They're put in very hot water, which actually is painful to them. And so that's bad for the industry. If you think about wild fish, if a wild fish is damaged and it's not paying attention to predators, then it's likely to be eaten. If it's damaged, that leaves it open to infections, disease. And there could be secondary reasons why the animal suffers mortality. It's been damaged, and so its skin is open to disease. So that there's lots of things that can happen to fish that we do to them that we should consider doing it better so that it's least invasive for the fish. So, for example, if you catch fish as a hobby or as a sport, you can use barbless hooks so they're easier to remove, they cause less damage. You can make sure the animal stays in the water as much as possible. You can limit the length of time to capture because these sort of it's called play. I know it's when you catch the fish and then bring it in. A lengthy play exhausts the fish. It causes it a lot of stress, and so there are things that we can do that can make the experience better for the fish. And I have written about that for the Norwegian Food Safety Agency and published a review on how we can reduce damage to the fish.
And many people enjoy having fish home. They raise them as a
Mm.
pet. And I know, especially in Taiwan society, fish are often considered to be a good way to add some good feng shui to your office or to your residence. It can maybe the flowing water. The idea is it kind of helps, money and cash flow more easily into your bank account and things like that. But so at the same time that maybe people are raising fish as a pet or having them in a household setting, what can we do to make that as pain free or as suffering free of an environment as possible?
Yeah, pet fish are very popular. They're the third most popular pet behind dogs and cats globally, the most numerous pet. And so lots of people love their fish at home. I think one of the issues I have with it is that anyone can walk into a pet store and buy a tank and have absolutely no idea how to keep these animals. And they are very different to us. It's a bit different if you get a puppy or a kitten because they're mammals like us, and we kind of know what mammals need to survive. But with fish, it's very different. And the water quality is one of the things that is the 99% reason for fish illness or death. And so it'd be really important to have knowledge, to arm yourself with knowledge on how to keep fish before getting them. So you really need to know about how to set the tank up properly, what requirements the animal has in terms of its behavior and in terms of food, and also be an expert on water quality and how to maintain that quality and have water quality testing kits as well as an in-tank heater if the animal's tropical. And so it's just about getting to know the species as well, because some species are very territorial and aggressive, and you can't keep two together in the same tank, and people make that mistake a lot. You can have a territorial species on its own, and you can have other fishes that, are gregarious and like living in groups shoaling around that don't bother the territorial species, but you can't have the same territorial species in the tank. Species like Siamese fighting fish, very beautiful, very popular, but you can't keep two males in a tank because they would rip each other to shreds. And so it's really about arming yourself with the knowledge and having the background and thinking very carefully about how to keep pet fish. Now, I know people love their pets and really want to take care of them, but it's not quite so simple when you have pet fish. You really have to have quite a lot of insight into how to care for them.
And also, I'm kind of curious. Many people who are vegetarian, or maybe I shouldn't say vegetarian, but maybe many people refrain from eating meat, especially red meat, but they consider seafood and fish to be okay. It's not, I think, kind of going back to what you said before, these are animals, these are species which maybe don't feel pain the way other animals do. With the research that you have done and what you have learned, do you feel that that is still a valid argument, or what's your feeling about uh, having fish as a source of food?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that many people eat fish and that they are an important source of protein. and people enjoy eating fish. I just think there is no argument to be made now that they don't ex have feelings and that they're not intelligent and that they don't experience pain. I think that those are myths now. These are sentient beings. So if you choose to eat them, then you can do things like think about where have they come from, how were they caught, what methods were used. Think about the carbon footprint. Are they a local fish? Were they caught by hook and line? Were they killed humanely? So there's lots of questions you can ask about the fish that you're buying to make sure that it's ethical and environmentally friendly. So there are things that consumers can do, and you must be willing really to pay for better welfare. If you want high welfare fish, you have to, the public really needs to drive that and push that forward and say we want fish that are killed humanely. We don't want to eat fish that are just left to suffocate in air for 15 to 20 agonizing minutes. We want fish that are killed in a humane way. We want them caught in a humane way, and we want them to be caught by an environmentally friendly method that doesn't destroy the environment that they've come from. And by making those choices, you can drive better welfare for the animals.
And speaking of welfare, fish populations, aquatic animals all face many challenges today. You have overfishing, sea garbage, plastics in the ocean, water pollution, inhumane fishing practices. As members of society, we all need to do something, but oftentimes we all feel overwhelmed. There's just so much going on out there. Where do we start? And some people say, well, start from little steps. That's great, but other people think, well, that's really meaningless. So from your vantage point, what would you advise that we as members of society, what can we do to improve this situation?
Yeah, it is a difficult time. We have climate change, which is rising the water temperature. That means there's less oxygen available for the fish. So fish are either dying or they're moving to different areas. That affects the whole ecosystem. We've got, plastics in the environment. We've got garbage. We've got so many different problems, and it can feel overwhelming for people. But I think as an individual, you can make a difference. You need to make sure that any rubbish or plastics are properly recycled, and ensure that things aren't just getting blown off into the seas, that we can make ethical choices about the fish that we eat. So we only eat fish from a sustainably managed population using a method of fishing that doesn't destroy the environment, that the animals are treated well, that they're humanely killed. And so you can make choices as an individual to improve things. As well, you can campaign, you can speak to your local member of parliament, go to charities that support animal welfare, uh, campaign for improved conditions for fishes. And so as a person, I think people can make a difference if they set their mind to it. Just small things, even, making sure you have an ethically sourced fish to eat, and making sure that you're recycling your plastics and cutting down your carbon dioxide emissions. Those are little things, but if everybody did it, it would make a huge difference.
Okay, in a few days, I assume you'll be traveling to Taiwan here. Right. So you will be attending Asia for Animals conference later this. What do you hope to share with the audience, and what do you hope to maybe gain from the event itself?
Yeah, well, I've never been to Taiwan, so I'm super excited. And it's a wonderful conference, Asia for Animals. So I'm hoping to learn new information and meet new people who are involved in improving the welfare of animals in Asia. I personally hope to share the science that I do with the audience. I hope to inform them about how sentient and intelligent fishes are, that I can find a species of fish that can do anything a mammal can do, and that fishes deserve protection. And that's my main aim, is really to inform and hopefully inspire people to see fish in a new light and just think about treating them better.
And so this will be your first time to Taiwan.
Yeah, my first trip. Yeah, I'm really
Have,
excited about it.
have you been elsewhere in Asia?
Yeah, I've been to China, Japan, India, Singapore, Hong Kong, so a few places, yeah.
So how have you missed us?
I don't know, really. I do a lot of traveling. I get invited.
I need to make you feel bad for missing us, you know.
Yeah, I do. I get invited to, I just calculated at 11 conferences per year. I do 11
Wow,
conferences per year at the moment. And
what a
and
month.
so I do a lot of traveling, and if I traveled everywhere, my husband probably wouldn't recognize me. So I've got to be at
Okay.
home sometimes, but
That's fair enough. How long will you be in Taiwan?
I will be there for about a week.
Okay. And do you have plans to travel outside of Taipei?
Yeah, I'm going to visit a collaborator. We have been working on a project looking at finding indicators of pain in cuttlefish and then trying to find pain relieving drugs that prevent those behavioral changes associated with pain.
Okay. I'm just saying that because Taipei is nice, but the rest of Taiwan is also very nice.
Yeah.
Very lovely people here, very lovely scenery. So I hope you can enjoy as much of Taiwan as possible. And I'm
Yeah.
sure we hope that you can come here again sometime. It's a wonderful place.
Yeah, my nephew, his partner's from Taiwan, and he visited last year. He told me it was just wonderful, and so I've got tips on places to visit. So that's good.
So you're all set. Okay, great. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks so much, Tim. It's a pleasure talking to you.